Good morning and welcome to this morning's webinar. This is Victoria Beal with the Ohio LTAP Center, and I am so pleased that we are able to bring you today's webinar on the Transportation Information Mapping System. I have with me my colleague Catherine Robertson, who will be providing the content of the webinar. So I have a couple quick housekeeping items and then we'll get things moving. First off, I would like for everybody to look for the question section of the GoToWebinar panel on your screen and drop me a hi or hello in there. I see a number of people have already done that, and I appreciate that very much. We just want to make sure you know where this is at so you can access it throughout the webinar to ask questions. And as you put questions in, I'll be looking for the appropriate moment to interrupt Catherine and ask your question as she's doing her presentation. So I appreciate everybody responding. We don't have any handouts for you, but I know that Catherine has excellent information that she will be sharing, and I'll make certain to follow up as long as our recording works the way it's supposed to, and send out a link to that recording afterwards. So I believe that's all the housekeeping things I have for right now. Are you ready to go, Catherine?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Catherine Robertson. You can call me Katie, and I work for ODOT's Office of Technical Services, where we put together and support a lot of GIS solutions. And one of them is the TIMS, Transportation Information Mapping System, that we're going to go over today. And you can think of TIMS as our public publishing portal where we gather together all of this information pertaining to our roadways and make it available to the public in hopefully an intuitive way that's easy to navigate and find what you need. So you should be seeing the TIMS homepage now, and I'll go over just a few basic things before we navigate away from the home page. Of course, if you have not visited before, you can just type in the URL gis.dot.oh.us/TIMS. You can just Google, or any search browser, you can just search for ODOT TIMS, and it should be the first result that comes up. From ODOT's external page, there will be a link from TIMS. This Zephyr icon will open our main page. Transportation.ohio.gov is a little easier to remember than the full TIMS URL. And I haven't gotten super familiar with this, but you can search in here. Yeah, I guess I should have planned ahead, but all right. And once you visit it here, you can just bookmark this and come right back to it. Also, the TIMS site, most of the functionality is available from your mobile device, so the same URL, and you can pull that up and follow along as we go through this webinar, or bring up the main site on your other monitor and walk through it. And I encourage you to do that because it will, once you're in there and working, you're sure to have questions. So if you're moving through the site during the webinar, you'll be able to ask questions and we can try to answer them right now today. Okay, so a couple of links on the bottom that are worth noting. Our news link will contain information about upcoming trainings. Obviously, with our current situation, there's no in-person training scheduled at this time, but it's good to know that that's there, and you can keep an eye on it in the future. The help button will open a PDF guide, so you can search through here if you come back to TIMS later and can't remember something that you saw in today's webinar. Then you could maybe take a look at this PDF. And the contact link is where you'll find this email address. Now this goes to myself and a few other folks on my team and that support the TIMS application. And if you have any questions about the technical aspects of the application, we can probably answer those. If you have questions about the data that you see here in TIMS, if we don't know the answer, we'll know who to forward you to. So um, any of your questions or suggestions, we always welcome them at tims@dot.ohio.gov. I guess you could also write us a letter if you wanted to. Okay, so the TIMS logo at the top right, the title bar, will always get you back to the home page. And I try to think of a different scenario for each of these webinars, try to keep it fresh. So I actually drove into the office today and I drove through a construction zone and I thought, well, let's just investigate this construction zone. There must be a project for what's going on this section of roadway. So let's start with one way that we could identify this project. And I'm going to go into the project search page. So the project search page will load with all of the records that we pull from our project management system. And occasionally there will be a project that does not show here, and that will be if it has been canceled, it will not show. If it does not have at least 50% dedicated funding, it will not show here. But otherwise, you will see a history of the projects going on throughout the state back to 2003 when they first began with this Ellis project management application. So we have some basic filters, and you'll see that it remembered the last filter that I had applied when I was here at the TIM site, so I can hit the reset button to clear all that out. And you'll see that it quickly populates all of the records. And I can switch to view just 5 of those records so it all fits nicely on the screen here. And I can point out that it's pulling in over 66,000 records. And so we give you some search tools to help you filter that down. And I was in Madison County this morning, so I'm going to start filtering the county list. And I clicked the county drop-down list, and you'll see it populated, but I can also just start typing and it'll filter that list. And that's a behavior you'll see throughout all the tools in TIMS. Okay, now I'm looking for something that was occurring now, so I can filter by fiscal year. Now this will be the award date, I believe, in Ellis, so I do want to go back a little bit. Let's go back to 2018. Okay, and I could filter it more if I knew a primary work category. I think that probably the engineers and construction crews are really familiar with how a project would be categorized, but I don't necessarily. So I'm going to leave that blank and then come down to the results table. And here you can see that you can also filter if I want to just scroll through all the records and get an idea of all the work categories that are present. I can expand this out again to view more records on one page. And I was on Interstate Route 70 this morning, so I could try to find projects just by sorting. Or I can use this search box knowing that all of the route numbers are going to be 5 characters and they will be padded with zeros at the front or leading zeros. So if I'm looking for everything on Route 70, I can just type in that format and it will automatically filter those results down to 19 records. So I have 19 records of projects that were occurring in Madison County, and I've got this filtered to my recorded location. And sometimes, of course, a project might be recorded in one county, but the work actually crosses the county lines. And I'm viewing things that were awarded from 2018 through to the future. And now I've got my results filtered to everything I'm only viewing what's on Route 70. And then I could filter it by CTL. Those are the county township logs. And view them in order, like going down as if I'm traveling along the roadway. You can think of the log points as mileposts. They don't necessarily always sync up or match the milepost signage that you'll see on the road, but it's the same idea. And if I sort by, it looks like I'm already in order here, just sorting it by the log points, but I could also sort it by PID. And we'll see that we have actually 3 unique PIDs, and one of them just has this one location, and the other 2 have multiple locations. You'll see it's the same PID, and they have different locations. So, of course, because we're mapping this, we will give a separate record, a separate geometry for all the locations that have been logged in the project system. Now we can find more information on the individual PIDs by clicking this View Details button. And if you just click the button, it will open right in the same browser page, which is convenient if that's exactly what you're looking for. But for the webinar today, I'll be going back and forth, so you'll see me right-click, open, link in new tab. You'll see me do that a lot. Just helps me keep my place. Okay, so now we're viewing a lot more information about that project ID, 93605. And we can get more information on the location, the letting, award dates and construction dates. And we can see that this project, the award milestone is 2035. So this is definitely not the project I drove through today. As far as I know, it's still 2020, longest year ever. So we will go back and let's look at this PID below. Let's choose a sample 112880 is the PID I'm looking at now. And we can get some information on this one and see that it is also planned for the future, 2026. I'll scroll down through the whole page since I didn't last time. You'll see that there will be active links for proposals and plans. The links will always look active even if a document has not been uploaded into that system yet. So if I were to click there, it will open our digital paper. And it took me to this home screen that lets me know that there are no documents, but we're going to look at this further in a minute. So let's just backtrack. So I'm left with one more PID that has 7 locations, I believe. And we can see that 6 of the locations just have a beginning log point and no end log point. They will always start at 0 and work up, so 0 will never be the end log point. And that lets us know that these are point locations on the map, and usually those will represent work on a structure like a culvert or a bridge. And when we have a range, a starting log point and an ending log point, we'll know that that's going to carry over to the map as a line feature. So let's click View Details on this PID. And again, we'll see the location information. We'll see that this was awarded in 2018. The in construction is October of this year. So this is the project we were looking for. You can view more information down here. Let's see if we have documents loaded. So there was a document loaded, and you can see it took me directly to that document record. And can click this button to view, and it will immediately bring that PDF document. So that's the proposal, and then usually there will be plans. It looks like they have not been loaded yet. Maybe once the project is complete. At the top of this project information page, there are 2 links. One will take us to the map view. One will take us to a summarized version of our Ellis project system. Let's click that button. Can't remember if it takes me to a new tab, so let's do this. Okay, so it should automatically populate that PID. Sometimes it doesn't, but the search tools at the top of the page are pretty clear, so you can just enter your PID there and populate it. And you can get a lot more information in here. You can look at information for the construction contracts, scheduling data. You can see that it's logged 6 bridges, and we can guess that those 6 bridges will match up to the 6 that we saw back on our project information page that had just a point location. Okay, and we'll click the View and Map button. Again, it's going to map the location along Interstate Route 70 from log point 8.62 to 15.57. And I'll zoom out a little so you can see where that's falling in the county, this dashed line. And now just to reiterate how the log points work and how they travel in the cardinal direction, we'll know that it's starting here at log point 8-ish and continuing on to the west boundary. And if we had a project that starts at the I meant east boundary. If we had a project that started at the west boundary or the southern boundary, the log point would begin at 0. And if I go back to one of these future projects, here, this one will be this Interstate Route 70 beginning at log point 0. So if I get to the map for this one as well, you'll see that it is the western part of the state. So just one more time, the cardinal directions will always begin at the southern and western part of a county, if we're talking about county log points, and then they will increase as you travel north and east. And of course, we have state log points as well, and it's the same concept. It just begins at uh, the border of the state, and it does not reset at each county line.
Catherine, we have a question that's come in. Someone would like to know, can you find a project starting at a map? It seems hard to guess the project from a list.
Yes, and I planned for that today. So we are going to discover this same project starting directly from the map page. So stay tuned. And once I get into that, if you still have questions, let me know. Okay, so I did what I said I wasn't going to do, and now I'm going to hit the back button to show you. You can always back to the project search page, and it will remember the filters that you've had. Usually it does not remember the search box. One more thing, and we're going to be at the main mapping page. So we know that this PID 107-109 is the one that we're interested in today. So I can click each record to select and then just click it again to unselect. From this page, you can't do a select all. You have to individually click each record because the whole point is to narrow the information. You start with this vast amount of information, and TIMS wants to help you narrow it down to exactly what you're looking for. So once I selected these, we could export these records. And let's export to a KMZ. We might want that again later. And with all of the export or upload behaviors in TIMS, you'll see the same behavior. You'll choose your criteria, click the export button. It will process it on the back end, and then a download button will be activated. So then once you click that, now I know I've got that saved in my download folder, so we can reference that later. And we can click View and Map to take all 7 of these records over to our Create a Map page. And we talked about having point features and line features, and we'll see that those came through here as 2 different feature classes. If you're familiar with GIS at all, you'll know that you can have a feature class for a geometry type, but you can't mix geometry types, so that's why it's split into 2 tables. And we're looking at the one project line record down in the bottom. And if we want to switch to the other result table, just click the down arrow, show attributes, and now we have these 6 point locations. And I can resize this results pane to view them all at once. And it's all the same information that we saw on the project information page, now just in tabular format. And of course, we have the links. We still have that search box functionality if we needed to narrow this down more. We can zoom to one individual location with the zoom button at the left of each individual record, or zoom to all of the results. For now, we will just minimize the entire results table. Okay. So once we're in the Create a Map page and we're at the location of this project, we have a lot of data at our disposal. And we'll just click through some of those layers now. Again, this layers pane also is resizable. Some of the layers with longer names, you can hover over to view that full name. But we can discover a lot about the assets around this project. I'll turn on our bridge inventory, and then our identify tool, probably the most used tool. You just click it to activate, and then I can click over one of the bridges, and now any of the layers that I have turned on are going to show up in my results layers. So I had those project records in my results table that I sent over from the project search page. And I also turned on my bridge inventory, so I'm going to switch to bridge. And just a huge amount of attributes about those bridges in our bridge feature class. I can switch back to my set visible layers, turn bridges off. We'll see culverts, and again, you could use that identify tool on any of the layers that you have turned on. Outfalls, you can see along here. We can get safety barrier inventory along that road, noise walls, even signs, one of our newer data sets. And if we take a look at one of those records, again, I'll switch to the sign inventory, and you'll see where I clicked on the map, it actually intersected 7 sign records. So I could toggle through those. A lot of our assets along the roadways are inventoried and inspected through our collector program. And so you may see links in the tables to attachments. I did look earlier, and I couldn't find any of the assets along this section of roadway that actually had pictures attached, but I will show you. You would just click that link and, oh, look, there is an attachment. I got lucky. So it will just open this interface. And if there's an attachment, it'll be there, and then you can open that picture or inspection form. So that's a really great resource. And you can just check any of our assets just by scrolling down in the list of attributes to see if there are any URLs. Above that, there was a link to PathWeb. There's a couple of ways that you can access PathWeb, but we also had the links in quite a few of the data sets as well. So let's take a look at that one. There's one way to access PathWeb. So it should zoom directly to the location, but it did not. And that's okay, because we're going to view PathWeb more in a few minutes. Okay. We will collapse assets grouping and just get an overview of what we have under boundaries. So,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Someone asked center line and right-of-way documents. That's the extent of the question.
Yes, right-of-way documents, we get so many requests for right-of-way documents. There's a project underway to try to gather all the sources for these right-of-way documents and get them into TIMS. It's such a, they come from different sources and they're in different formats. So as of yet, we do not have the right-of-way documents available in TIMS. We do have something that we call our straight line diagrams. That may be what you're looking for center lines. And when I get down to this roadway information grouping, I'll turn those on and we'll take a look at those. Okay, so here in boundaries, just an overview, we could get an idea of which planning organization is active in that area. And we can see the electric and telephone providers, just some basic reference. You can also see your House and Senate districts. Right now, that's very important for everyone to know. And then let's just do a quick view through of environmental. So we have a lot of layers for restrictions of maintenance restrictions along the roadways for environmental reasons. And of course, these are intended for ODOT maintenance only. We could turn those on and see those along the roadways. And you can get information about your soil types in the area. I'm sure there are many experts on these data sets, but I am not one of them. Okay, we'll skip over projects and go to roadway information. And here we can get our pavement condition ratings and our traffic count. I'll turn these two on, and I haven't shown you guys the legend yet. So if you turn a layer on, you're not sure what the symbols represent, back at the top you can switch to the Legends tab and it will give you an idea. So the pavement condition rating for that section of roadway. It all looks pretty good in this area. Traffic count segments, and this is the AADT numbers, the average annual daily traffic. Our road inventory, that's just going to be the main reference for all of the roadways. So we'll take a quick look at that and see everything that you can get. And again, remember, you'll get results for everything you have turned on. So switch to road inventory. You can get all the information about that section of roadway. And then I said we would take a look at our straight line diagrams. This is a newer data set we were able to add to TIMS, I believe, just in the past year. So you turn it on and then just activate your identify tool. Click on a section of roadway to pull up that record. And again, we have to switch to that data set. And then this link will directly open the PDF with all of the information charted out for that piece of roadway. So hopefully that's what you were looking for when you talk about Centerline. If not, drop a message in the chat box and we'll see what else we have. Okay. Our last section, safety. This is where we show a small subset of the crash data that you can access through GCAT. A lot of you may have also attended webinars for the GCAT system, which is very similar to TIMS. It's kind of linked through the same application. Of course, you have to have login information to access GCAT. But here in the TIMS page, we have pared down version. We show just the previous 3 years of crash data. And hold on, let me clear out what I had on before. And they will be symbolized by severity. And if you look at the attributes, it's just some very basic information. Okay, so we skipped over projects. Let's take a look at what's in there. So this is going to be all projects points and all projects linear. That's going to be the same 66,000 records that first populated when we opened the project search page. So we started with project search page and sent over our results, and they came in at the top here as results layers. Let's start over and say we were going to find this project starting with the map page. So I'm going to click the TIMS link to get back to the home page. Go to create a map. And I could turn on just all of the projects. Of course, that's just going to take up the whole state. It'd be a lot to sort through. So first you could zoom to your area of interest. And now we're going to talk about the options under this Find Locations tool. I call these the Zoom to tools. If you have an address, you can enter that, just like searching in any other map. If you have a log point, we'll circle back and look at that in a minute. Right now, we'll just choose an area. Again, I have a drop-down list, but I'm going to start typing to filter. And now back under my projects. So we could turn them on by, it's all the projects just filtered to what's happening in the next 4 fiscal years or the previous. But the most helpful for this is going to be filtering by current projects. So here it will take the construction dates that are logged in the project system, compare it to today's date, and we'll be able to view everything that's in construction on the roadway right now. So you can see here's 70 going through Madison County. That is probably the quickest way to see what's happening right now on the section of roadway. And we could, if we zoomed all the way in to a smaller area, turned on all the projects, use our identify tool to get a quick overview of what's happened in this area. So we can just keep our eye on this fiscal year as I scroll through the 13 records that were represented in that area where I clicked. So we can see 2011, 2019, 2010. You get a history. And again, it's all that same project information that we saw on the project search page. And again, in the results table when we sent those over to the Create a Map page. It's just now in a list format. Okay. Let's see where I plan to go next. Let's get back to just viewing our lines and do an overview of what you can do here in this map page. So our most basic is we can change our base map, and we can choose the OSIP imagery, which will be like an aerial photography, to zoom into the area and inspect what's going on. One thing to remember about the OSIP imagery is whatever base map you have chosen and you navigate away from TIMS and then come back, it's going to remember in your browser cache. So if I tried to go to the full state, I might just see this and it wouldn't load the base map at all because those images are very large. So if you ever see that, just switch back to one of the other base maps and it should draw right away. And of course I lost my location, but we'll just zoom in this time. Oh, I had a very smooth transition planned out when I was planning this morning, and of course I navigated away from that. But if I had my results layers still listed above, and I wanted to share those results in the map page, then I would use this share with friends. And this will remember your project search results, and it will remember the area that you're zoomed into and what additional layers that you have turned on. So you just copy to clipboard, and you can email it or text it to someone on their phone. And when they go to that link, it will go right back to that area. And if you did have your results tables still listed in the layers at the top, it would remember those as well. The final button up here is to print a map, and this will just do a basic PDF. You can choose your size, and it will bring that up. It takes a few minutes, so I won't do it right now. Sometimes it depends on your network connection. Okay. So we looked at the data, all the assets that we can view in this area. And let's circle back to these Zoom tools, make sure we've covered all those options. If we had a log point, well, let's actually start with this. Click on Map to report a log point. So I'm going to activate that tool, click anywhere along the roadway where this project is, and it's going to give you the NLF ID, county, and state log point. The reverse way, if I had a log point, I could enter it, narrow down by county, and then your route, 12.3. And you'll see when I picked my route, it gives you a hint of what the valid county log points are. So 12.3, click find, and it will zoom in directly to that point. Of course, if you have a lat long, you can search with that and report as well. So that's a good reference tool to have in your pocket. And we did the find area and of course find address. Okay. So, and again, see, every time you do a search, it's going to generate one of these results layers. So that's just a behavior to keep in mind. It gives it a generic name, but you can usually figure out, sometimes you end up with a lot of layers listed, and then it's probably best to just refresh and start from a fresh map page. But we have our current project lines turned on. Let's turn on our points as well. And we did just zoom in to see all the current projects that were in Madison County, and we zoomed to Madison County and we could just visually see what was inside. But we can also use some filter tools to narrow that down by a few different ways. So let's start with geography first, and that's just going to filter by geography. Is you're going to give it an area, a polygon, like a county or a district or urban area. We'll do county. Again, all the layers that are turned on will be an option to filter. Let's do our points. Choose Madison. And when I click search, it's going to get all the current projects in Madison County, and they will be listed in my results table. So you can see we're viewing a few roadways, and we could use the search box again if we wanted to just see what's on 70. Back down to those 6 structures. Okay, let's clear that out and see how else we can filter this data. We can filter by attributes, points, click add filter, and now you're going to build a basic SQL query, and let me get some screen back. So it's going to list all of those those column names or field names. And say we were looking for something by county, we could just start typing to filter those out. So could filter. And these are pretty basic, but I just want to give you an idea of how the tools will work without having it too complicated. So all the current projects, points in Madison County, we can do it that way. We could add an additional filter. Let's do our award milestone date is after Oh, wait, well, I'm looking at current projects, so that's probably not going to apply. But hopefully you can see the behavior of how you can add additional filters. So if you have questions about that, feel free to post in the chat and I can build another scenario. So back to our layers, we see our results layers and you'll see the order that they show up. So this fine log point was already there. I'm going to turn that off. And then we did a filter by geography. So I'll turn that one off. And the last filter we did by attribute. And that's going to be, I'm going to make sure I'm looking at that results table.
Catherine,
Yes.
question for you in the
Okay.
question box. How many years of project data are presently in TIMS?
So our Ellis project data goes all the way back to 2003 because that's, I believe, the start of storing that information in the Ellis system. We also have some historic roadway data that you can access through project history. We'll take a quick look at that. You can tell that I have not turned this layer on because my browser has no cache for this one, so it's going to take a sec. But and then under roadway information, there's a layer called tape, I believe they call it, and that's got historic roadway information. So between project history and the historic roadway information, you should be able to track all the way back. I don't want to just stare at this forever, so hopefully that answered your question a little. I don't know why that doesn't want to draw now. To finish my thought, and then we'll give that another shot. Hopefully it'll clear out by then. So when you filtered the projects that you want, you only want to view those on the map, you can leave your results table turned on and turn off everything else. So now I'm viewing those locations. And from your results table, you could export that as a KMZ. We saved a KMZ earlier, so we're going to load that in a few minutes. I'm going to do a little reset, and hopefully I want to take a quick look at that project history so you can get an idea of what's in there. Right. Okay. So it'll give you a description. Hopefully that's useful. And this might be one of those scenarios where, say, you have a question about the data specifically, and you can email us at that email address. And clearly, I'm not an expert on this project history data set, but I know the guys who are, so I can get you in contact with them and coordinate that and help make sure that you get the answers that you're looking for. And always remember, when you use that identify tool, it could have brought up multiple features, so you can scroll through. And we could turn this full project history layer on and then use our filter tools to answer the question of, what's the earliest record? That might be a good idea for the next webinar. Really dive deep into some of the data. Okay, so I have this project location. I saved it as a KMZ. And now I want to add that back. I can do that with these add data to map tools. You saw multiple formats. We'll start with the KMZ, and then I'll show an example of, I think, geocode addresses. I've got something I can use. All right. So the KMZ that I downloaded before, it went into a zipped folder. I planned ahead at least, and you'll see that it made one for lines and one for points when we exported from that project search page. So you can upload them both, but you'd have to do them one at a time. And once this is uploaded into the map, as hopefully you've already guessed, we will see that in a results table. So let's go ahead and do the other. See, I did the points. Let's get the line. Just to show that you can upload multiple files and to reiterate how you can switch back and forth between the attribute tables for those. Now, when you upload these files, it's only for your current browser session. If I navigate away or generate a URL and send it to a friend, what I've uploaded is not going to be retained. You know, this is a web application, so you can bring it in for reference, but it is something that you would have to repeat each time you came to TIMS. So let's try address. If you have a spreadsheet of addresses, you can map those as well. So that's really helpful if you just need to generate your own GIS material, you have spreadsheet data. TIMS is a great resource. It makes it pretty easy to just read in some information and then you can export it out. So I chose my file. I forgot to click upload, that two-step behavior that we see with all the tools. It's going to try to fill these in. So I had a field named address. It found that, but city did not. So I'll pick it and zip code. Click the geocode button, and it's mapped all of those and automatically filled in my results table. These are district headquarter locations throughout Ohio for ODOT. So now I have this in here. I could export it as a shapefile or a geodatabase. So that's a really useful tool. You can read in LRS events the same way. If you had a spreadsheet that had NLF IDs and log points, you can read in a shapefile. Okay, what have I not touched on? Looks like we've got about 10 minutes left. There are some tools under this tools menu. Let's make sure we go over those. Specifically, the PathWeb. This is probably the fastest way to get to PathWeb. I'm going to zoom back in. So with PathWeb, you can click on any roadway. And just to do that again, because sometimes it looks like the tool hasn't done anything, but I picked it and I know it's activated because my cursor turns to the crosshair, so it's prompting me to click on a roadway. And that's going to open PathWeb in another tab. And it will zoom to that section of roadway. If you haven't used PathWeb before, it's another really great resource for investigating an area. This is where our path vans travel the state, I think, on a 2-year cycle, and they're collecting information on pavements and calculating information on rutting and cracking. And they now have added right in the view, you can see the PCR for that section of roadway and the AADT data. You can play, just drive along the roadway. I mean, this is a fun Friday night, and I tell that joke every time, but I like to assume you guys are laughing. Just kick back and watch that. Okay.
They'd like for you to show how you got to PathWeb again, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, absolutely. Let's get back to, all right, so we were at our map page. We're in our area. We want to open PathWeb. This little gears icon, the left side pane, we'll call this the layers pane, but it also has this toolbar. So there's the gear and that's tools. You expand that, choose ODOT PathWeb, and now you'll have your cursor icon. And you can click over any major roadway, and we would have driven it. So if you click just an open space, it might open PathWeb and say location not found or something like that. So click the disclaimer, and then from within here, it's pretty easy to tell what you're navigating. There's another really good reference tool map channel. This one you can click anywhere. It does not have to be along a roadway. If you click on a roadway, it will automatically snap to the roadway. So you just need to note it's going to bring you to this home page. I'm not sure why they have that, but just click view. So this is just a mashup of different mapping views. So you can see we've got the aerial, the roadway view, the map view, and I can travel throughout these together. So as I click along the street view, you can see that all the windows are traveling the same. So that's another really good reference. You can learn a lot about an area before you actually go visit in the field. Okay, bookmarks. So if you bookmark your browser, right, it's going to save this URL and GIS blah 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 /TIMS/map. That's going to get you to the main create map page. But say I want to be able to zoom right back into this particular location. You can make a bookmark within TIMS, and you'll see I created one earlier. Just give it a name, click add, and whatever your map is zoomed to when you click add, that will be your bookmark. So that will stay. You'll see it each time you come back to TIMS until you completely clear out your browser cache and browser data. And then some basic tools. Draw, you can make a note on the map. Again, it doesn't persist through outside of your current session. But if you wanted to make a quick note and then generate a quick PDF, you could do that. And the measure tool. You can draw a few shapes. We'll just do a line so you can see the behavior, and it will prompt you. Just click to start, and then with each click, and then double click when you're done, and it's going to give you a distance. And now I had miles chosen, but if I wanted to change that to kilometers, I just switch it here and it will automatically change that. So TIMS is a good conversion tool too. Okay, so I think we've covered all the functionality in the map page. In our last few minutes here, I just want to make sure that I touch on these other parts of TIMS. So we started with project search. We spent a long time in the create a map page, the data download page. This has pre-packaged data sets, all of those data sets that we went through on the create a map page. They're just pre-packaged and zipped, so they'll be faster to download for you guys. And you just select as many as you want, and your export options are those same formats: Excel, KMZ, shapefile, geodatabase, and you will so each individual feature class will be in a zip file, and if you're downloading multiples, it'll be zip files within a zip file, so it keeps it pretty fast. Standard PDF maps. The print function that was in the create a map page is really basic. So we have some layout templates pre-configured. So we're looking at current construction. We could see, and these are useful for those who maybe have their weekly meetings and they like to have a paper handout or have that to talk over. You can choose your base map. You can choose your size. The small one hopefully would be fast. And again, it's that two-step behavior, generate. I did download this before, but if I open that PDF, it won't be in my shared window. So while we wait on that,
I'm going to tell you about the kudos that just came in. We had someone that said this is an excellent presentation, and thank you.
oh, thanks. Checks in the mail. Just kidding. Okay, there we go. Download. Hopefully that'll pop up in a sec. In the meantime, there we go. Oh, you guys probably can't see that, can you? Because it's not your shared desktop. Well, you're just going to have to go in TIMS and download a PDF for yourself. How about that?
Actually, we can see the download there.
Oh, good. Okay.
It worked.
Yeah. So you'll see it has some information, basic legend.
Yeah.
Okay. The map viewers, we get a lot of requests for agencies throughout ODOT that they want to see just a subset of the data that we have in Create a Map. Can be overwhelming to navigate through everything in Create a Map. Let's just highlight one quickly. Active transportation is one of our newer ones. It's got a lot of information about state and US bike routes um, that I think we're all pretty excited about lately. Zoom in a little. And of course, you can see the functionality is the same. We've got the data, so we've got the safety data, but it's filtered out just to show pedestrian and bicycle. Our projects are filtered out for those applying to the bike routes and safe routes to schools. And recently we added this very pretty matrix where they did a needs demand study. So I'll just geek out for a second. And you can see that composite of need and demand scores throughout the state of Ohio. And once that loads, you can get a description of those scores where demand is high but need is low. And of course, if you have questions about that, that brings us to our last tab. Actually, if you have questions about any of the data, you can come to the data glossary page. You can filter the data sets from the drop-down list, and then here we're seeing all the fields in that active transportation demand layer. So you can get a description that hopefully will be useful for what you're looking at. Let's switch to, say, bridge. And you can see at the bottom there are 144 attributes in the bridge data. That's a lot of data. But you can, again, change how many you're viewing here. You can search within those results. You can hover over each record to get just a basic description of the data set itself. And then if this middle tool is active, you can click that and it will take you to the office within ODOT that owns that data, that maintains that data, so you can get more information or contact details there. And with that, we have a few more minutes, so let's see if we have any more questions.
I don't have any in the question box right now, but I did want to mention that if folks are interested in digging a little deeper into the GCAT section of TIMS, we do have another webinar coming up next Wednesday, and I put a link to the information about that webinar and how to register in the chat box for everybody. So.
Okay. Well, I have one more thing and we can end on this. I did not touch on this search by PID shortcut that you'll see on the home page and always in the title bar. So 93605 is one of those PIDs that we looked at earlier. I can just type that in and it will automatically bring that up here. So that's always a faster way to get to one specific project if you know the PID. And
Awesome.
thanks everybody.
Thank you for doing such a great job on this webinar. You know, every time you do this, we always learn new features about the program, and you do an excellent job, Catherine. So we
Thanks,
really
Victoria.
appreciate it. All right. Let's see. I have a question about, yes, we referenced a place where you can review the information. We will be sending out a link to the recording as long as it was successful, and so far it looks like it has been. There's a question for you, Catherine. It says, will it sort by construction project number?
Construction project number. So if we were back in the project search page, let's see, do we not have the construction project number there? We would probably have to do a filter, and let's try to do that quickly before we run out of time. Just click any layer, filter by attributes, construction project number. I see construction. Let's see. Construction project number. I don't know what that field would be called. If
Well,
you
maybe
know.
the person who asked the question could like drop what they think it would be called in the
Yeah,
question box. If not, contract number someone's recommended.
contract type. I don't know what we would identify the field and then build your query here. If you knew the contract number, or if you can sort a lot easier if you populate this list. So say I had my list of all the projects in Madison County here in my results table. I could sort on any of the fields this way. But feel free to email me at that contact link if you want some help walking through a scenario, and I'll bring that back up.
Awesome. And I'll be sending all your questions over to Catherine too. So she'll be able to follow up with you directly on these.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, at 11 o'clock, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, everyone.